Okay. The music's wrong.
Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another video for you. So, as you know, the Classic Beta started up a few weeks ago. I was about 2 weeks late getting in, but I did finally get there, and I've been playing it quite a bit, and I thought I'd give you my impressions on it really quickly here. I've been ranting about this game for years, so it's probably video worthy to talk about it now that I'm actually playing it, right? Well, to sum it up, I like it. I know, shocking, right?
Boom, there it is. Yo, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Give the video a follow, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, this is as loud as it's gonna get. Okay, guys. This volume is
honestly
fine,
everything
right?
I imagined it to be, though. And in fact, I liked it enough that it's brought me out of a 4-year hiatus from streaming.
Twitch, wow.
Ever since I started the YouTube
Tux,
channel,
thanks for the 5
I
subs,
stopped
man. I
streaming
appreciate
for
it.
a few reasons.
Thank you.
But a big one was because there weren't really any games that I felt passionate enough to actually live stream.
I understand
until now.
that. I really do.
So please excuse the plug here, but my channel is at twitch.tv/MadSeasonShow if you want to come and...
You know what? We've used this guy's content so much, we're going to put it in chat. MadSeasonShow. Okay, there we go. There's his Twitch right there. So go ahead and go over there if you guys want to give him a follow and let him know how much we appreciate the videos. He makes some great videos, and there you guys go. Yeah.
Say hi. I stream most days, typically around noon or in the morning. So, what do I think of the beta? Well, I think first I should give you an idea of my background with the game, of when I started and what I've done, and so on, to give you some perspective of my experience with it.
Makes sense.
Well, I started the game in March of 2005. I came from another MMO called Star Wars Galaxies, and I was one of the last holdouts of my group of friends. And the reason I switched was because all my friends quit pretty much. They migrated to this new hit MMO called World of Warcraft by Blizzard Entertainment, where you hack and slash away at your enemies, cast spells, have erotic roleplay sessions with female avatars that are most definitely all males. So right up my alley, basically. I ended up finally biting the bullet, and actually I didn't like it at first due to the cartoony graphics, but I stuck with it, and I saw just how much the game had to offer. I ended up doing the typical stuff. I got into PvP quite a bit, climaxing at rank 10, which is when things really started to get grindy with the rank 14 system.
Not bad.
And I got into a hardcore raiding guild, typically the top 3 for my realm, which was and still is Khadgar US. Specifically, we full cleared every raid, with the exception of Cthulhu and the optionals in AQ40, and a little less than half of the original Nextramus 40.
Damn, so he actually raided
5
in
days
Nax.
a week, around 4 to 5 hours a day, so really edging the demands of a full-time job. But luckily I had no life, so it all worked out in a way, I guess.
Good.
And from there, I played off and on, bouncing between casual and hardcore. I kind of missed a lot of that progression rating in the Burning Crusade due to burnout, and Wrath was my last hurrah really with competitive raiding, because that's when my guild pretty much dissolved and most of my friends quit, and I never again got that motivation to find a new guild.
That fucking sucks, man. Like, my guild... Dude, like, my guild fell apart in the middle of Wrath, and it was honestly, like, one of the saddest things that ever happened to me. Like, because it had been a guild, like, listen, like, I had wanted to get into this guild. I remember I saw a warrior outside of Naxxramas, and he was in, like, full Nax gear because they were about to do the raid. And I asked him, whenever I hit 60, can I join your guild? And he said, LOL, no. Right? And I dueled him a few times, and he just beat the shit out of me, obviously. Right? I finally get into that same guild that I'd wanted to get into for, like, years. In, like, towards the end of middle of, like, Burning Crusade, right? And it fell apart at the middle of like, fucking Wrath, right? After Old War, because, like, a lot of people started quitting. Like, at that point, like, this had been, like, a guild that had come from EverQuest. So these guys were, you know, like, getting to the point to where, like, you know, late 20s, you know, they had, like, responsibilities, etc., right? So a lot of people started dropping out, and, you know, things just started happening. And, like, that period from, like, late Old War into, like, ICC, like, first half of ICC was, like, one of the worst periods ever for, like, me, like, playing WoW, because I didn't really have, like, any of my friends, and, like, everyone was just, like, so scattered. And I transferred to, like, some random server, like, Kill Jaden, to do, like, PvP and shit. And I remember, like, we still held on to, like, our old guild website, And like the guild leader, the guy, the priest, by the way, the priest that was going to be the warrior class leader instead of me, the warrior, he was our raid leader, right? And he made a post on the guild forums and he's like, listen, I think it's about time to get the gang back together. And they decided that they were going to go to Kel'Thuzad's server. And before, nobody wanted to jump ship, right? Nobody wanted to take the plunge and be the first person to leave. But I did. I just said, fuck it. You know, I don't have anything on this server. I'm going to leave this server, leave my current guild, leave everybody that I know, and I transferred over to the Kel'Thuzad just to play with the old boys. And we did. Everybody came back together in the old guild, and we killed Heroic Lich King. It was like one of the best fucking points, like, ever in the game. It was so badass, man. Like, I'll tell the whole story one day, whenever I do the Asmongold, the Legacy of Asmongold. Yeah, we left. Yeah, man. And it did kind of, like, people did move on, like, later on. I mean, that's the same with any guild. But I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. It was fucking amazing.
A big reason for that is I feel like the prime of the game had passed me ever since the Wrath of the Lich King expansion.
Yeah, it sure did.
But fast forward to today, with the upcoming release of Classic, that drive is back, full effing force. Pardon my French. Like I said, this game brought me out of a 4-year hiatus with streaming. I initially thought that I wouldn't play it that much if I got in the beta. Like, maybe just like level 5 or so, just to check it out. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah,
right?
Nothing too serious.
Yeah, things may have gotten out of hand.
That's what everybody says. You know, I remember whenever I first started playing WoW, I probably thought to myself, you know, I'm not going to play that much. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to lose my life in the game the same way that these other losers did. And, hey, look at me now. Turned out great, huh? Sitting around, playing video games all day in my pajamas, drinking sodas, collecting free loot. Hey, can somebody trade me some gold? I need some money. I want to get up to like maybe 1,000 gold. Okay, let's start this up.
Just a bit, I'd say. And the reason for that is because, well, it's fun.
That's the real dream.
And I wanted to break down one by one the main reasons why I think that. Obviously, with the beta being capped at level 40, we can't really get into the heavy stuff such as endgame raiding or real competitive PvP. Although the low-level meta has been surprisingly enjoyable for me, probably because I'm a warlock and fear is just completely overpowered.
Yeah.
But let's just start from the ground up,
Yeah.
and that would of course be the leveling. Something that I've claimed for years is that the leveling in the game used to be harder. Not just more time consuming, but also harder.
It was a lot harder.
Like I said, I ended up making a warlock in the beta, which is one of the easier classes to level in the game since you have a personal tank pretty much. But still, I can absolutely tell you that the difficulty is there, especially if you're solo. The mobs hit harder,
awful.
You hit for less, elite quests are back, and are unsoloable for most classes in the game at the appropriate level. You'll pull 100 enemies because the aggro radius is bigger, and your gold is limited, so you simply can't buy the best gear. And of course, no things such as heirlooms or other modern conveniences that the current game has. The leveling will kick your butt if you're solo if you're not careful, and it of course also extends to dungeons. All that being said though, I don't think it's as hard as people thought it would be, and that's simply because people's measuring stick for the past 12 years have been private servers, or a foggy memory, or both. When the beta first launched, people were saying that the health regeneration is too quick, and that the elites don't hit hard enough.
The health regen actually was accurate. At the beginning of the demo, whenever Classic first came out for BlizzCon, the health regen actually was too high.
And etc, etc. But so far, it's looking like these are things that were improperly tuned, not by Blizzard, but rather the private servers. As Blizzard has been slowly testing these elites and whatnot with their original reference client, and pulling numbers that were true to the original release. But still, the leveling can be difficult, and it's a good thing for the game.
God,
in my
I fucking
recent
hated
BFA
that piece
review,
of shit.
when talking about warfronts
Holy
and how they're
fuck.
nearly impossible to lose, I brought up the point that in a video game, if there's no real challenge in something, it's no longer fun. If there aren't really any obstacles to overcome, that activity just becomes a chore to slog your way through to get to that ultimate endgame reward. It's certainly the case for Warfronts, and I also think for leveling in the current game. I mean, just look at the cash shop. You can pay to skip the leveling. Players
I think the difference is, like, there are games like Animal Crossing that aren't necessarily challenging, but people still enjoy them. The problem with Warfronts is that they're not challenging, and they have a guaranteed outcome that you have no control in. And you can't have both of those. So you can make the game very easy, right? And like you can do like collection meta stuff, and people do that all the time and they enjoy the game. But the problem is that whenever you are stuck doing this content, and it's also very easy to do, and you know what's going to happen. Like there's like no other way of doing stuff besides just doing Warfronts, right? That's the issue. The guy doesn't know how many alts you need to raid in a decent guild. 0. Like 0. You don't. I mean, yes, maybe in like a very, very high-end guild, yeah, you need alts, but for any sort of just an average guild that's clearing content, you don't need any alts.
should never feel like they should pay to skip anything in your game. I mean, there will always be people who will want that, even if it's perfect.
Yep,
but if the demand is
lazy.
big enough to warrant a cash shot method to skip through the leveling in your game, it really says a lot about the state that it's in. In the beta, I once more feel engaged in the leveling. I've made it a point to level by myself as much as I can. I only do quests in a group if I'm invited, and if I feel like I can solo them, I try to solo them. For the most part, at least.
Fucking
I
good.
also don't want to go out of my way to avoid people, but I don't accept help from over-leveled players, because I've made an effort to gauge the difficulty of the leveling in the game, as you all would if you were playing.
Well,
And that's
luckily
not
we
a
didn't have to
statement
deal with
on
that.
those who accept help, by the way. You can do what you want, I really don't care.
Oh,
But
thank you.
you have to think about what you pull,
Thank you,
where you
Alexon.
pull it, if there are any patrols
you, dude.
around, what order to do the quests, and
Thank
where
you.
to do them, because there aren't any
Wow.
blips on your map. You actually have to read them back then, remember? So it's like finding hidden quests, or hard-to-find quests.
Oh,
It feels like an
yeah!
adventure.
This is whenever
I
I
ended
jumped
up
off.
forming a group for this orc outpost in Red Ridge. There are a handful of elite quests here, and you have to push through a small army of orcs to get them done.
I loved doing this quest. There was something about this part of the game where it was the first time that you really went into an area where everything was elite, where things were actually hard. And the moment that we went in there, that's whenever shit got real. And that's what, like, this area is one of my favorite parts of the whole game because of that specific reason.
Just going in all willy-nilly didn't really work out, as you can see.
Nope.
We died a lot, but we regrouped and said, come on, let's get serious. We went room by room, marking kill orders,
We didn't say
shooting
that, but
mobs,
yeah.
dodging patrols, and slowly but surely, we made our way to our final room, where the big boss awaited us. A 4-pack with a red no less.
Yep.
We sheeped one, I spam-feared one, pet tanked as much as possible, and we got skulled down, then X, then the big one.
did this exact
and
same
finally
stuff,
we
man.
cleared the room to get the quest done for everyone. It was actually pretty intense, and it was more rewarding than any raid boss I've killed throughout all of
I love
BFA.
this song.
This level 20-ish group quest. And here's another example for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Probably, I've gotten more fulfillment and satisfaction out of completing, like, I don't know, I guess getting the gladiator mounts in BFA was kind of cool. But besides that, I mean, like, what else have I really done in BFA that's really that hard? Like, yeah, when we got the gladiator mounts, that was good. Oh no, yeah, actually, there was getting Glory of the Oldir Raider. I was pretty happy whenever I got that too. Cutting Edge? I didn't even get Cutting Edge. I didn't care. Conqueror of Azeroth, Island Expedition mounts. Let's see. Like, I don't know. I mean, probably just the Glad mounts. That's literally the only thing that I felt good about getting. Like, everything else besides that, I mean, like, I'm sorry to say, but I never really felt that good about it. You failed a Warfront? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I actually probably spent more effort failing a Warfront than anything else in BFA. You're not surprised. Or, I'm not surprised, yeah.
I later got a quest to go into this tower, but I didn't have a group. I was solo, so I had to get clever. The goal was to get this little urn at the very top, but I didn't know where it was, so I had to scout it out with my Eye of Kilrog.
I scouted it out in spirit
there it
form.
is, but holy crap, there's like
remember
1,000
this.
orcs along the way. Okay, let me soulstone up, make a health stone, send the pet into tank, and I'll fear what I can. Oh crap, the Voidwalker's about to die. Let me sacrifice him for an absorb shield, then healthstone,
And then
potion,
run all the way
and
up
make
there?
it up
Yep.
as far as I can go.
This is exactly what I did
Okay,
too.
but now what? We have 2 different patrols that'll 100% aggro if I just pop up here. So let me wait a bit and see their pattern to try and time it to see if I can resurrect safely, and then summon the Voidwalker again, send him up to get everyone's attention, grab the quest,
You just loot it from
and
behind the
make
wall.
a clean getaway.
It was so easy.
I felt like James Bond running away from some power plant exploding or something. This is what I've been ranting about for the past 4 years.
Fuck yeah,
Moments
dude.
like this.
Fuck
Quests
yeah,
that are
dude.
difficult enough to engage you, and challenges that require you to think hard and pull out every trick in the book. And I'm so glad that it's as I remember. It really...
Yeah, this is like that was the way that I felt about it too. Like I really like that. Let me take a second here. Stefan Let's Play, thank you, said $3.14. Friday decided to watch your streams. Good to see you, man. Keep up the good work. See, look, this is why I don't claim the videos. Hey, Asmon, been watching you on YouTube for a few months. See? This guy found my stream from fucking YouTube. That's why I do it. Why does McConnell sound so different and chill during the dueling video of 2 years ago? Sounds much more angry now. What happened? BFA happened. Everything was great with McConnell, and then BFA happened, and now he's always mad. And you can't be surprised about that. Anarchy, thank you very much for the $5. Appreciate that. Can you check my message in chat? He said he would check my quiz I put on YouTube. Just uploaded the 2nd episode on the YouTube, called it Vanilla WoW Quick Questions Quiz. We will do that tomorrow, okay? I don't want to do another quiz today. But we'll do it tomorrow, okay? And I'll look at your video then. Have you done the 8th hour stream already? No, I haven't. Not yet. BFA is about when you get it rather than actually if you get it. Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Immerses you into the world that much more and into your character. Okay. So let's talk about that a bit more. I do feel that overall, due to the increased difficulty of the leveling, that I do care more about my character. Every level, I'm like, cool, a little bit stronger. Let me see what spells I can train, or let me put in my talent point. This is, of course, when we had the old talent trees, where you got 1 more point per level, and you had many more nodes to experiment with. The common criticism with this system is that there really isn't any choice, and at the max level, there are only a couple of viable builds.
Of course.
While this is true to some extent,
of course,
this argument is really indicative of that big problem that I mentioned earlier, and that's people only take the endgame into consideration. We have 60 levels of character progression, and when you slowly but surely increase in power level by level, and you're combining that with stuff such as spell training, you really get invested with your character, which is what MMORPGs are all about, right?
That's how it's supposed to be.
It's that character development, and I think that people only taking that endgame into consideration is the perfect example of one of the problems that the current game faces, especially with level scaling. I also brought this up in my BFA video, but as you level now, mobs scale with you, and you don't get new talents nor new spells.
I don't know about this whole level scaling shit, man. Like, in a lot of ways, I kind of wish maybe they didn't do level scaling. Like, it seemed like a really good idea at the time, but it's just like, I don't know. It makes everything really boring. I don't know what else really to say besides that. It's like, you don't feel like you're getting any more powerful or anything. You don't feel any progression because everything else around you progresses equally. So it's like, what are you doing? Like, you have bigger numbers? Who cares?
And with that scaling, you have to ask yourself the question, what's the actual point of the leveling? It's just an exercise, and it goes against anything resembling an RPG. For Classic though, the leveling to me feels like a journey and not an obstacle.
Yep.
And keep in mind that this is in spite of it being a beta.
Yes.
This character and all of my progress will be deleted, but yet here I am building my best in slot lists and planning out my tune because
I've made more friends on a Classic beta than I have in BFA for the entire history of the expansion.
I actually care about his gear, and I care about his gear because I'm invested into that character development. I've gotten more excited about level 20 blue items than I have getting some ultra mega Titan forged socketed items from heroic rating because it feels more rewarding to me.
What do you mean,
I know
dude?
that even for this low level meta, okay, this is the best item I can get, I don't have to farm it 40 times hoping for a Titanfort socket proc. I feel that growth in power, and I want better gear so I can do better in PvP or duels, or better at running dungeons or whatever, which leads me into the community section of this video. Another thing I've been ranting about for years is the community
I like
classic.
the song, man.
If you watched some of my older videos, if I had to pick the most important thing about the game, it would have to be the community aspect, and this too is something that I feel is very strong, even in the beta. Now, there is layering, and it does have its problems.
What's the crazy thing about it is, like, whenever I look at these screenshots and I see the different people, right? This is obviously, like, you know, I'm in this raid, Esfon's in this raid, MadSeason's in this raid, obviously, like every single person, I recognize their name. And I think that's just something that, you know, with, like, Cross-Realm and, like, sharding and everything, you really just kind of lost out on. Because back in the day, you would go to Ironforge and you'd see the same dudes. You'd see them. And it was like you were in it, man. And I guess, like, now it's not really as much of a thing because, like, everything's just shared and, like, sharded.
More on that later, but since there isn't any cross-realm zoning, many times I've run into the same people over and over while leveling.
Yep.
Like, I did that Elite Orc quest with this group of people, and hey, look, there he is again. I remember this guy. Let me hook him up with a Hellstone, and maybe he'll run stockades with me soon, or maybe he'll group up for this quest. It's a hard thing to put in words, let alone prove, when people can't actually experience it. It's something that you really have to experience yourself to fully understand it, I think. Back then, This is how I met my friends and joined my raiding guild. I started just joining my one friend from Star Wars. Through him, I met two more guys named Zarg and Maver, two people that I still play with today, and I made friends with them, and eventually we joined a raiding guild named Archaic, where I made many more friends. To me, it felt more organic and natural back then, whereas today, I feel like you have to go out of your way to make friends with people or to find a raiding guild. With cross-realm zoning, assuring that you never see the same person twice, dungeon...
I want to just make one, like, little quick aside here. There was a rule in my old guild, the same guild that I was talking to you guys about, that if you used a snowball in the raid, you would instantly lose all of your DKP. Because the guild used to troll around, and because the snowball knocked down the tank would not be able to mitigate the damage from the bosses, and it killed the tank one time and wiped the raid. So the guild decided that, or the officers decided that any single person that would use a snowball in raid would be immediately removed of all of their DKP.
way to make friends with people or to find a raiding guild. With cross-realm zoning, assuring that you never see the same person twice, Dungeon Finder conveniently teleporting everyone so you don't have to fight to the dungeon together, and the dungeons themselves being so face-rolled to the point where no one even needs to speak, mob tagging sharing so there's no real reason to ever group up with anyone,
thought about that in years,
and
man.
it goes on and on.
That's just
I feel
boring.
like there's so many hurdles today between players that you really have to go out of your way and force things to make friends, and to go through that progression of joining a guild and doing all of that endgame stuff, or just random silly events in general. Here I joined a raid to kill Dr. Weevil on Alka's Island in
that's
Theramore.
everybody!
He was tied to the old scepter quest,
Yep.
and I had no reason to do it. I had nothing to
That's
gain, and it didn't really turn out the best, but you know what?
Okay,
I did
dude.
it because it was fun. You can attribute a lot of this
Okay,
to just being
dude.
bored at level 30, certainly,
Yep.
but I think a big part of it comes from the community and just doing interesting things.
It was really
In
fun.
regards to stuff like world PvP,
That was awesome.
today players are kind of forced together through world objectives for some ultimate reward, whereas back then, I feel like people just did it more for the fun of it. Like I said, it all feels so much more organic and player-driven. Like, look at that horde scum killing that turtle. Those are my turtles, damn it. Let's make turtle soup out of them. I don't care about the honor or even the turtles. I just want him to know that I'm better.
That's
Or
right.
stepping outside of
Fuck 'em.
PvP, just being
Fuck
able
'em.
to say that the Alliance on your server was the first to clear Scarlet Monastery Cathedral.
True!
That sort of stuff.
Big true,
But
dude.
for our
Remember
last
that?
topic here, I'd like to briefly mention the gameplay.
Yep.
I have a lot to say about this, but I feel like I should hold off
Remember
because
that?
at the
That's
end of the
good.
day, we're still capped out at level 40. Like, can you really bring up anything substantial in regards to gameplay when we've seen such a small fraction of the game? At its bare bones though, the gameplay to me feels just as good as ever. I feel that even at this level, each class has such a defined and unique playstyle, and everyone has their own little roles to fill. Warlocks of course have summons, health stones, and soul stones for dungeon wipes, and I also like their curse that makes it so enemies don't run away. Mages
We
are
used to try to put that curse on low-level mobs and then have low-level mobs kill players while they were questing. And that way the mobs would do more damage to them.
the kings of control, and druids are the most mobile.
This is great.
And paladins are good support classes with nice buffs, and incidentally are the best in PvP since their kit consists of judgment, stun, and seal of command. Hey, just saying, it's true, isn't it? It's the era before every class had every tool at their disposal. Not everyone has a sprint, not everyone has a self-heals, nor an immunity button, or super nimble, and so on. Again, you can't go too crazy with this because we're still low level, but I think it will be something that translates to the level 60 endgame.
I can't wait, dude.
I
I'm
think
gonna get
another
a
major
warlock just
issue
so I
with
can
the
have that
game
armor.
today is that hyperbalance. Everyone must
fucking love
have
warlocks,
answers
man.
for everything. It seems like these days, Blizzard balances the game as if it's an FPS rather than an MMO. I think that they sacrifice a lot of uniqueness and identity with these classes to try and reach that hyperbalance, which ultimately is unattainable in PvE and PvP, by the way. I mean, just look at the recent Mythic rating progression, where like 80% of the DPS are Affliction Warlocks.
Yep.
Hey,
there
at least
it
in
is.
Classic, he had a mix of Warriors, Rogues, Mages, and Warlocks as the top DPSers.
Whoa, warlocks, not as much. Warlocks were in the raid to summon the warriors and the rogues, and the warriors and the rogues were in the raid to actually clear the raid. But you had the warlocks in the back in case one of them had to go back to town to repair or buy more consumables.
And why's that? Well, it's because they're more than just a DPS number to the raid.
Yep.
Warlocks bring essential debuffs,
Oh,
soul stones, and summons.
come
And warriors
on.
can off-tank, so they're always handy to have around. And mages have water, and their dampen and amplify magic, among other handy spells. And rogues, to a lesser extent, have some group play viability through their poisons, or trap disarms in the Blackwing Lair. And druids, although they weren't the best healers, were the only ones who could battle res, which was crucial due to how spiky and unpredictable damage was back then.
Druids used to not even have a normal res. They only had battle res. That was like the most scuffed thing ever. I remember I'd asked a druid to res me. They're like, oh, it's not up. And I'd be like, ah, fuck. It was awful, man.
And also, a lot of people forget about their Innervate spell, which was equally as crucial.
It was fucking ridiculous.
Over the years, they either took out, removed, or quote balanced a lot of the unique perks that these classes have, either
They balanced
directly
them by
straight
removing
up
them out of the
removing
game.
or indirectly
Then there's
by
nothing to
just making
balance.
them irrelevant. And what I mean by that is, for example, druids still have their battle res, of course, but Death Knights and Warlocks and anyone with Engineer can also battle res now. Warlocks can still summon, but now there are summoning stones and more convenient traveling options in general.
A lot
And
more.
mages can still make food, but only healers really need it now.
Who
since
uses
mana is such a
food?
non-issue for everyone else.
Who the fuck
And
uses
again,
food?
it's all for this unobtainable hyperbalance.
The fuck?
What's this? Shamans can buff their party members with Wind Fury, or drop totems
never
that
did
cleanse
that.
afflictions off of them? Well, we don't want people to feel the need to bring shamans, so remove everything.
It's about right.
It's pretty funny for how much people bash the balance of Classic, that the DPS roster is somehow more diverse 15 years prior, and that's because DPSers are more than just a number. They bring other cool perks to the table, or at least they used to.
I don't know about that. I mean, if you look at like any high-end, like what was like a speed clear, like let me see, Molten Core speed clear. Like this is for 17 minutes. I mean, let's look at that DPS meter right there. Okay, the top, out of like over the top 20 people or 23 people, basically every single one of them is a warrior or a rogue, right? And I know, you know, hey, all the warlock falsers in chat a little bit ago, sorry guys, but this is reality. Welcome to the real world, guys.
I think combined with the fact that these classes being much more niche in general, and not having answers for everything, makes for a more rewarding and interesting time in both PvE and PvP. And when you have these core concepts operating at a good efficiency, it makes people actually care about most other things in the game. I won't lie and say that the balance is flawless, I mean, warriors are unequivocally the best tanks,
I know.
and priests the best healers.
Yes.
And who really wants a raid filled with balanced druids?
No one.
I'm just saying that there's value in the classes having their own little niches and roles to fill. It's one of the reasons why I liked Wrath so much, is because I think that's when the game had a good mix of having a decent balance between the classes,
Yeah.
and at the same time,
At the
we
end?
still had the distinction between them, and not everyone had answers for everything.
Absolutely.
Just talking about it or reading about it is enough, but actually playing it gives you a much clearer perspective of things, I think. And even if you think that you'll have no interest in Classic at all, I say at least give it a shot. Give it until level 10 or 20 and see if you pick up on what I'm saying
That's
here.
fair. Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
So, all of this is to say, I have quite a high opinion of the game so far.
Good.
I think Blizzard has done a really good job, and I feel that Classic will be extremely successful. So much so that I think it may make them stop for a moment and say that, alright, what can we adopt from Classic into Current to recapture that magic, so to speak? Hey, a guy can dream, can't he? And on that note, I'll still play Current. I always maintain that I enjoy it for what it is. I think it has a lot of flaws, and while I'm mainly focusing on Classic right now, I think I'll always have that itch for Current if I feel like doing a Mythic Plus run or something, or a new raid, or expansion comes out. I will be checking out 8.2 when it drops, and my fingers are crossed
Yeah, of
that
course.
it fixes
Everybody
some of
will.
the problems that I have with the current
Yeah,
game,
everybody will.
particularly with the Azerite system, which I feel has many issues. And hey, I take a return to raid sets, although there's a pretty fat chance of that happening. There are some caveats here and there. I think that layering is still an issue. There have been instances of players getting layered mid-combat, or relogging to resource nodes, and so on. Now, will it be fixed for release? Well, I hope so, because if you're able to relog into a fresh thorium vein every time, it's gonna be a big problem.
Not
I
for
said
me,
that in
because
a
I'm going to
recent
be able
video.
to do it.
I think that layering should be in at 1 week max, because that's before people get to the high level stuff, such as Black Lotus and thorium. If it's completely screwed up, even at release, which has a high chance of happening by the way, at least we can say that, well, at least it got taken out before things really got screwed up.
Yeah, I'd say that's
I
probably
do
true.
have a lot of trust in Blizzard, but I can definitely see them messing up this layering. So I think if it's a cutoff point before it can really be exploited hardcore, that would be the best failsafe and a good middle ground. Other than that though, I'm pretty excited, and I'm not alone. I'll see you in the next video, or the next stream, because again, I'm back to streaming now. You can find me on Twitch at the same username, but wherever you may find me, I hope that you found the video interesting or entertaining. Like it if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.
There it is, dude.
Peace.
There it is. Okay. Well, there we fucking go.
Farewell for now, mortals.
I think that was a really good
Hope
video.
you enjoyed today's